hours for NDSU campus over winter break, when and where you can return your books to the bookstore, and an update on the impeachment hearing on President Donald Trump. You're watching Bison Information Network News. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Moorhead police are searching for a man who was involved in a stabbing at the Fargo Public Library earlier this afternoon. Just before 4 p.m., police were called to the library with reports of someone being stabbed in the hand. The person who was stabbed was treated on scene, and police believe the suspect fled on foot. There is no description for the man who fled, but the police say there is no current threat to the public. With finals week drawing closer every day, there is important information students who aren't graduating need to know. The break hours for NDSU will start on Friday, December 20th, and run through January 10th. Campus will be open from 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., except on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day, when NDSU will be closed. Residence halls will be closed on December 20th at 6 p.m., and the dining centers will be closed at the end of the lunch period. Residence halls will reopen on January 12th at noon, and classes for the spring semester will begin the next day. Commencement is a milestone, one of life's landmark occasions, a time when graduates, family members, and friends gather to celebrate past and future. NDSU's annual winter commencement kicks off at 2 p.m. Friday, December 20th at the Sanford Athletic Complex. The procession will begin promptly at 1:45 p.m. with the ceremony starting at 2. Graduated should be at the Shack by 1 p.m. We'd like to congratulate all graduating seniors. It's dead week here on campus, and that means that textbooks from the semester are due soon. The bookstore textbook rental downstairs has staff ready for students who wish to return any rentals or receive cash back. Valid student ID is required for textbook returns, and all original materials must be returned at the time of the buyback. Any material rented for a fall semester must be returned to the bookstore by Friday, December 20th at 5 p.m. After this date, late fees will apply for any textbook returns. A House committee debating the articles of impeachment against President Trump for hours today. Democrats say the president violated his oath of office. Republicans say he has committed no crime. Karen Kafa is in Washington with details.
A long, contentious day in the House Judiciary Committee.
17 witnesses. It's uncontradicted. There's no rival story.
Facts be damned. They don't care.
The committee debating amendments to the 2 articles of impeachment introduced by Democrats alleging abuse of power and obstruction of Congress by the president related to his actions toward Ukraine. Republicans say it doesn't meet the threshold.
If that's the best you got, you wasted a whole lot of time and taxpayer dollars, all because so many of you, Mr. Chairman, hate this president.
Democrats say it is their obligation to act.
The president committed the highest crime against the Constitution by abusing his office, cheating in an election, inviting foreign interference.
A committee vote, the final step before consideration by the full House. Democrats confident they have the votes to impeach, even though some swing district Democrats have not publicly committed to voting for the articles.
The articles are what they are. They're very powerful. They're very strong. And they are a continuation of a pattern of misbehavior on the part of the president.
While Republicans aim to keep their entire caucus in line.
If you watch the impeachment inquiry, the only bipartisan vote was no. If you watch what has come forth since that, there's no reason to change that vote.
That House floor vote is expected next week. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
The application form for scholarships for the spring semester is now available for current and incoming students. Any current NDSU students have until March 1st to apply for scholarships, while incoming students have until February 1st. Students are encouraged to not only sign up for scholarships, but to also apply for financial aid. Jeffrey Jacobs, Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships, encourages applying before the priority deadline to receive a greater chance at a scholarship. Any questions about scholarships or financial aid can be answered at the One Stop in the Memorial Union or the contact listed on the scholarship webpage. And now here's a look at your finals week forecast. Beginning with tonight, we should see the light snow we had earlier today stick around. It will be cold and breezy outside, with winds reaching near 14 miles per hour and an overnight low of 1 degree. Over to our 7-day forecast, Dead Week ends with a high up around 18 degrees, with some snow likely for tomorrow. Saturday, though, we get real cold yet again, with the nighttime low dropping into the negative 20s before a slightly better Sunday. For Monday and Tuesday of finals week, we will be getting close to double-digit highs, but not quite there yet. Wednesday and Thursday appear to see the area completely stay above zero for both days, with highs getting into the mid-teens. Every day during finals week looks to have some sun as part of the forecast. Plus, though it's not shown on this forecast, Friday looks to be a similar day like the others, but slightly warmer. Coming up, the breakfast feast is hitting the dining centers and designing and creating your very own t-shirt. We'll be right back. The Memorial Union is hosting a study-a-thon all day in the Great Plains Ballroom on December 19th. This event is free and open to all students. Students can come enjoy free food and participate in fun activities. Quiet individual study spaces, as well as study groups, are available. The ballroom is open all day Sunday from noon to 11:55 p.m., and free prizes will be awarded to those who stay longer to study. Studying is the main attraction. However, students who just need to wind down and socialize are welcome. The stress of finals week is coming up, and NDSU Dining wants to take the edge off a little bit with the late night breakfast. Late night breakfast is scheduled for Monday, December 16th at the West Dining Center from 9 to 11 p.m. Breakfast is free to students who live in a residence hall, have a meal plan, or have friends to guest pass. Otherwise, the meal will cost you $4. You can get more details on the event and more at the NDSU Dining Center's Facebook page. Creating something of your own can be fun. The Special Events Committee held a t-shirt workshop on Wednesday and gave students the opportunity to make their own t-shirt. The committee encouraged students to create the shirt just the way they like it and walk out with something free. More events are always happening at NDSU, so if you want to pay attention to what events are coming your way, head to www.ndsu.edu/campusattractions. After the break, a new way to help decipher nutrition labels and an update on everything going on in the world of entertainment. NDSU Public History students helped produce 2 short documentary films that are scheduled to premiere at 7 p.m. Friday, December 11th. The films can be seen at the Fargo Theater and admission is free. One film tells the story of the long road to women's suffrage in North Dakota, while the other film describes the significance of the Alba Bales House, a house seen on NDSU campus. Each film is 10 to 15 minutes long. Many of us are familiar with the current nutrition labels printed on food items or on menus, but not everyone knows how to decipher them. A new approach could help give you a better idea of counting calories in a way that computes. Mary Maloney has more in today's Health Minute.
A small study could show some big promise when it comes to helping you cut calories. It all comes down to how food products are labeled. According to research published in the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health, food labels that show how much activity is needed to burn off calories from what you're eating could lead to healthier choices than the normal nutrition labels. For example, physical activity calorie equivalent labels, commonly called PACE labels, would list on a bar of chocolate that it takes 23 minutes of running or 46 minutes of walking to burn off the candy's 230 calories. Researchers say this could help consumers cut an average of 200 calories per day from their diet. The group pulled data from 14 other studies that looked at the effectiveness of PACE labeling and calorie reduction. While the researchers cautioned that the studies were small and weren't carried out in real-life settings, they hold promise for reducing calorie consumption. The lead researcher says the goal is to have both sets on food products and menus, giving the public as much information as possible. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mary Maloney.
After 3 weekends atop the box office, it's time for Frozen 2 to step aside as a trio of new films take aim at the crown. David Daniel has a weekend box office preview.
Where's the jungle? This is a whole new thing. Nobody told us we had to do a whole new thing.
Okay, something went wrong.
It's game on for Jumanji: The Next Level as Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart and company return for another adventure. Analysts expect the movie to debut atop the box office with anywhere from $40 to $55 million. That would beat the last Jumanji's opening of $36 million. Though that film hit theaters a week after a Star Wars movie, this one opens the week before.
Cheese. We shouldn't have let her go back by herself. She's fine. Come on, live a little.
The latest remake of Black Christmas also opens on Friday the 13th. Sorority sisters have to deal with a killer on campus in the holiday-themed horror thriller, which is projected to debut with $10 to $12 million. Not bad. The production budget was $5 million.
You've always looked at the guy who found the bomb, just like you always look at the guy who found the body.
Clint Eastwood directs Richard Jewell about the Atlanta Olympics security guard who discovered a bomb, then was falsely accused of planting it. Paul Walter Hauser stars in the drama, which is looking at a $10 million debut. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
6 NDSU student athletes were honored for their hard work in the classroom last week. 5 football players were named to the Missouri Valley Football Conference All-Academic Team. Tight end Ben Ellison and defensive end Derek Tuska were given first-team honors, and 3 other players made it to the second team. 1 women's soccer player was also named to the Summit League All-Academic Team, goalkeeper Monica Polgar. The criteria to be on either of these teams includes being at sophomore standing or higher, have competed in half of the team's games that season, and have a cumulative GPA of 3.2 or higher. When we come back, we'll have sports, and Isaac is back in the studio this week. What can we expect today, Isaac?
Well, last weekend was really tremendous for NDSU football and basketball here on campus. I'm breaking it down for you coming up next. With last Saturday's win over Nicholls State, the NDSU football team now owns the longest winning streak in FCS history and has also made the quarterfinal round of the playoffs every year in the 2010s. For a preview of this week's Missouri Valley meetup against Illinois State, Bison Information Network reporter Joe Thompson caught up with an old colleague.
Recently overcame a tough Nicholls State team 37-13 at the Fargo Dome. They're staying at the Fargo Dome this Saturday, but they'll be on the primetime ESPN channel at 11 a.m. against the 10-4 Illinois State Redbirds. I'm now joined by former BIN sports director and current reporter for the Ross Uglum's Bison Report for 24/7 Sports, Eric Bunnell. Eric, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Nicholls State came out to a hot start, and NDSU seemed kind of slow in that game. What do you think was the issue there, and do you think they can avoid it against Illinois State?
I think they can avoid it against Illinois State. Against Nicholls, you had a bye week there. I know it's kind of like the regular season, you have that bye week, but they had 2 weeks to prepare for either Nicholls or UND, and they probably put a lot of game plan into UND in the week before. And Nicholls, I know that Entz and his staff probably put a lot of plan in both teams, but preparing. But it's just, they're the baby Bison. They had to get their mojo back. They had to get it rolling. It's the second season. It's their first, a lot of these guys, it's their first time in the playoffs, with the exception of the few offensive linemen that are seniors and obviously the defensive side of the ball. But I don't think it's going to happen this week. I think NDSU is familiar with Illinois State, and I think they're going to kind of run away with this game.
Do you think that there's going to be an NDSU player on the offensive and defense side of the ball that are going to give Illinois State some problems who aren't necessarily a big-time name like Trey Lance or Derek Tuska?
I think on the offensive side of the ball, you got to look at, is the Bison going to get Kobe Johnson healthy? If they get him healthy, look out. He's a speedster. Is Jalen Bussey going to be healthy? He's a speedster. Coach Entz said he hasn't been medically, both of them haven't been cleared yet for practice, and they know he'll be out. But I think if Kobe Johnson is able to play, he's going to be the key. He's going to be the speed back with Ty Brooks and kind of give him that 1-2 punch. And I know you have Demetri Williams and Adam Cofield out of the backfield too, is the more they're physical in between the tackle runners. But Ty and Kobe on the outside. And as far as defensive side of the ball, Jackson Hankey, he's been playing a pretty good, he's had a very good season for linebacker for the Bison this year, placing Jabril Cox as they split Jabril into the inside. But I think Jackson Hankey's a name to keep your eye on.
Now, do you have a final score prediction for this game against Illinois State?
I don't like to give final score predictions because most of the time I'm wrong, and I always think, oh, it's going to be close because I've had a few game people always say, your final score prediction was off. But I think the Bison win. I think it's closer than last time. I think it's 37-14.
All right, thanks so much, Eric, for joining me. Isaac, back to you.
Thank you, Joe. The winner of this Saturday's game takes on either Austin Peay or Montana State next weekend. And also just announced yesterday, quarterback Trey Lance received the Jerry Rice Award for National Freshman of the Year in the FCS. To last Saturday night now, the NDSU men's basketball team welcomed in one of the top mid-major programs in the country to the Shields Center in East Tennessee State. And early on, the Bison were not exactly gracious hosts. They started the game on a 14-2 run, capped off with this baseline drive from Cameron Hunter and a catch-and-shoot three from Vinny Shaheed. He had 11 points on the night for the Bison in this one. The Buccaneers, though, would hang in there for most of the game. As on a fast break, Trey Boyd III spots up and knocks one down from the outside. NDSU, though, did lead by 8 points at the half. To the second half now, Cameron Hunter gets hit as he lets it go, score the triple, and the Bison are back up by double digits. Back comes ETSU, though, with a baseline drive against Hunter, the crossover, and the jam by Boyd. The Bucks are not going away quietly, but NDSU is able to respond, though. Vinny Shahid on a high screen and roll. He puts it up high. Rocky Cruiser puts it down hard. The momentum shifts back the home team's way. And it would reach fever pitch as Tyson Ward would get the steal, and on a fast break, hammers it home with the left hand. The Bison pull off the upset and win this one by 10. They also beat Cal State Northridge last night. They're now 7-4 on the season. And Sunday afternoon, the NDSU women's basketball team hosted Wisconsin. Yes, that Wisconsin. And fans could attend the game for free. But this was a game that you'd traditionally say was worth the price of admission. Where do you go from there? At the end of the third quarter, check out this inbounds play by Wisconsin, leading to a buzzer-beating three by Nia Beverly to put the Badgers up by 7. But the Bison held its own in the fourth quarter. Sofia Zovalovic steps into a three off a screen. It's now just a 5-point Wisconsin lead, just under 3 minutes to go. Now under a minute to go. Emily Dietz on a screen and roll, calls for it on the right block. Hook shots up and in. NDSU's down by just 1, and they get the ball back with a chance to win it in regulation. In the left corner, wide open, Riley Newdell's three just a bit long, and Wisconsin leaves Fargo with a 1-point win, but an encouraging effort against a Power 5 school for NDSU. And be sure to stay tuned for more content related to Bison athletics, but otherwise, that's This Week in Sports. Bison on the Street is next.
As the semester ends, so do our week-to-week operations here at Bison Information Network. X's and O's, the weekly sports talk show here on the channel, recently made its final episode with its two hosts, myself and Isaac.
Yeah, we also put together a compilation of some of the show's bloopers over the past year. Take a look.
But yeah, we're going to shift gears here. There's a new football league that I wasn't even fully aware of until this past Saturday. The Alliance.
The Alliance of American Football.
The AAF.
For switching up the format, we're also back after a little bit of a hiatus. I'm Isaac Dienison alongside Joe Thompson. We're going to be talking about a few things today in the world of sports that we haven't had an opportunity to touch on recently because we've been on hiatus. So,
good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of X's and O's. I'm Joe Thompson along with Isaac Dienison. Later on in the show, we're going to be discussing a bit of the NBA playoffs, which have been a little bit more competitive than we originally thought.
Yeah, much more than we thought, especially than in recent years,
yeah,
too.
More on that later on. But first, we're going to go into the playoffs that happened a little bit earlier last week, the NHL playoffs. Take me through the NHL playoffs so far. What have you think of them?
Well, usually between these two leagues that we're going to be discussing today, the NHL playoffs and the NBA playoffs, the NHL usually typically, oh my gosh, I can't even go on. I just dropped my phone. I can't even go on. We got to do that again. My phone's in my lap and it dropped, and I'm worried about it. And you can find the whole video on our YouTube page, the Bison Information Network, near the end of X's and O's, episode 11. That was a lot of fun to produce, and as you can tell, we probably had a lot of fun recording this show, so I highly recommend you give that a watch.
Really, really fun to do it. Couldn't think of a better person, and even though you were the only person to do it, you were still really fun to work with.
Well, thank you very much.
As finals week quickly approaches, students are preparing for the air finals in many different ways. Bison Information Network reporter Sam Goodman asked students what advice they have to prepare for Dead Week in this week's Bison on the Street.
Really, what I do is I just go to the library and, just kind of relax, put my headphones in. It's nothing to stress about. Teachers don't really put anything hard on you.
Don't overwork yourself. Make sure you're still getting rest and know your boundaries. Don't study too hard.
Study groups at the library.
Like they say, study at least 3 days before your finals or for the class you're going to do, and don't sleep well before the night of the finals, or it's going to be a hard day.
Focus on your lecture materials, on your class test, on the exams. Probably the questions you are getting in the final from one of those. Thank you.
I would say spread out the studying. Don't try and do it all in one night or the night before. And when you do it, take breaks. Don't try and do it in one 5-hour sitting.
Well, if only I guess I had listened to some of that advice. I guess I'm not following some of that. I have plans for the opposite tonight.
Yeah, I have the same thing too. I'm not really much of a study person. I just kind of like to go for it in one fell swoop. So
That's just the life of a college student.
Yes, I won't be following that advice.
That's just the life of a college student. We're nearing the end of the semester, and that means finals are upon us.
But with that, there is some time to reflect on the semester. That's why I went and asked students what their most memorable moments were in this week's Bison on the Street.
Fall semester, the most memorable moment has been tailgating with friends on game days.
Just recently, I was in the Messiah concert, and that was a lot of fun.
I would say participating in psych research for credit.
My most memorable moments would have to be a moment with whole government. We had an event working with one of the food banks here in Fargo. I can't quite remember the name of it right now, but we were allowed to order different kinds of food, like boxes of food or cans of food, and we were supposed to make sculptures out of them.
One of my most memorable moments from this semester is definitely being a part of the NDSU homecoming show that's put on by Blue Key. The entire week we were promoting and selling tickets to students, and all of our proceeds would go to a local charity, which was super awesome to be able to see where our dollars are going to and how students at NDSU were able to make an impact in the community that we're a part of.
I went to a concert with a couple of friends. I introduced them to, that type of artist, and they had a great time.
Well, I guess if you ask me some memorable moments from this semester, they're probably all sports related, but as well, I'd say the opening of this new studio is probably up there for me too.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to do some stuff for Ross Uglum in the Bison Report for 24/7 Sports. I got to film highlights for some of the football games, and I was able to edit a video for Ross Uglum, so that was probably my most memorable moment for me.
Some of the football games, how cute. Well, today as well, before we go, was the final show for 3 of our staff as NDSU students. Joe Thompson, Heather Viker, and Alex Hart are all graduating this semester. These are a few pictures of them, from all 3 of them throughout their time in this club. Heather is directing tonight's show in Alex's usual place. He couldn't be there tonight. That's Alex there anchoring in 2017. Alex and Heather have been part of Bison Information Network in some capacity each of the last 4 years, and Joe has been on staff for the last 15 months. And all 3 have served as general manager of Bison Information Network over the past 3 years, and we wish them all luck on whatever their careers hold for them. Thank you, Heather, for acknowledging us out here in the studio. And we also thank you very much for all the work that you've put in as the current general manager. Whoever the next one is, hopefully they do a good job.
I mean, I wasn't here for very long, like we said, only 15 months, but I enjoyed a ton of it. I got to experience some great moments. I went to Frisco and Sioux Falls last year for sports. It had its ups and downs, but overall I really, really enjoyed it, and it was a great experience for me, and it's something I'll always remember fondly.
Wonderful.
Well, that's going to do it from us. From all of us at Bison Information Network News, thanks for watching this week's newscast. We wish you a safe and happy holiday season. Our newscast will return in January. Good night, everyone.